Okay, so I'm going to do a quick demo on how to adjust a scan or photograph of a trim and then pull it into Photoshop and use it as a pattern brush. So I'm in Photoshop right now. I've opened the JPEG of the scan of my trim, and I'm going to start by editing this image so it'll be smaller and easier when we pull it into Illustrator. So I'm going to start by doing image adjustments, and I'm going to desaturate the entire thing. So there's no color in this. There wasn't really any color to begin with, but you want to make sure that there's not a lot of color in your trim. And we're going to darken the blacks and lighten the whites to make it even more two colors. So after desaturating, I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and I'm going to go to Levels. And by adjusting the levels, I'm going to make this more black, so the blacks are darker. And then you see all of these pixels that are gray. I want to make those white, so that it's just a black and white image for the most part. So I'm going to take this, and as you can see, when I move this to the left, those little pixels have now brightened up and disappeared. So I'm going to click OK. Now I want to find the single repeat so that we can use it as a brush. So I'm going to use my guides to help me. Cancel. I'm going to pull these down. I do want to straighten this image a little bit, or make sure that it's straight. I think this could be rotated a little bit, so I'm going to unlock this layer by clicking the little padlock here, and I'm going to go to Edit and Free Transform, and I'm going to slightly rotate this and hit Enter. Now you can use your guides to help define the single repeat. If you do need to move the guides around, you can go to your Move tool and you can move them around. And we'll pull one more out from the side of your ruler. This one, it's cutting off most of this side, so I'm actually going to move this over a little bit so that this is showing. I think that's going to be all right for us. So then we're going to go to the crop tool. We're going to use our guidelines, and that's not quite right. I'm going to escape. And then I'm going to hit Enter to crop. So now we have our single repeat here. Okay, so next, I'm going to turn the guidelines off. We need to delete the white pixels so that when we pull this into Illustrator, our lace will be see-through. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Magic Wand tool. I'm going to make sure Contiguous is not checked. And I'm just going to click an area with white pixels and hit Delete on my keyboard. Command D to be done with that selection, or to deselect. So next we just need to save this image as a Photoshop document. So we're going to go File, Save As. And we can say black cotton lace, repeat tile. Save it as a Photoshop document. That's going to allow you to have the layer, the deleted pixels to actually be transparent. And we're going to click Save and OK. Now we're going to go into Illustrator, and we'll go into this layer here, and we're going to File and place our Photoshop document into the Illustrator document, and we have it right here. File, Place. Next, we're going to go ahead and scale this down so we can get it to the right size to be a trim at the hem of our t-shirt here. I think that looks pretty good. And now, as you can see, this is 685 ppi. So I do want to rasterize that to be 300 ppi so the file isn't so big. So I'm going to go, with this selected, I will go Object, Rasterize, and I'm going to do 300 just in case I want to print. I'm going to change the background to transparent to keep those transparent pixels transparent, and I'm going to click OK. And then we'll show you, as you can see, they're still transparent. So next, in order to make sure that our brush is going to fall along the top of the stroke instead of the middle, I'm going to do the invisible anchor point trick, I guess. And we're going to go to the pen tool. We're going to make sure there's no fill and no stroke. I'm going to do a single anchor point at the bottom of the trim. Then I will reflect that over the top. So I'm going to go reflect. I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to click the top of the trim, and it's going to be along the vertical axis. And nope, it's going to be on the horizontal axis, pardon. So it should be up here, and then we're just going to hit OK. Lastly, I'm going to group these together, right click, group, so that I don't lose that invisible anchor point. Finally, you will drag both of those into the swatch panel, do a pattern brush, click OK. I am going to do flip across, so it's going to be along the bottom of my stroke, and click OK. Next, I want to add it to this t-shirt, so I'm going to go Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in front, so we have our single line, and I'm going to select the brush as my single line. It does have a little bit of a gap here, quite a big gap. That is because when it's rasterized, sometimes the rasterizing will sort of add this little white border along an edge. There's not a whole lot you can do to help that with this method. There is another method you can use, which is live trace, that will give you a smoother result. But that's how you can use the image just as is directly from Photoshop. So let's go over how to do the live trace version. And the nice thing about the live trace version is you can also create start and end tiles to your repeat, so you can be even more specific and have more control over what your brush looks like. So to start, we're going to file and place in our repeat tile that we already edited in Photoshop. We can image trace this here. You can find image trace. This menu will pop up if you select the image, and you can go to this drop-down menu and do black and white logo. So it's already finished the image trace. If you go up to this menu here, you can adjust the threshold. If you do less threshold, more white will show. And if you do more threshold, more black will show. As you can see though, when you change those options, your paths and anchors are going to change a little bit. So be aware of that. I'm going to do somewhat in the middle. I think that's going to work okay. We can click away. And then lastly, we want to expand. So we're going to click this and we're going to click expand. And now, as you can see, I'm going to go to the direct select. It's changed this into paths and anchor points. We also want to, again, delete those white pixels or white areas so that this will be see-through. So I'm going to go to the magic wand tool, which is somewhere in here. Scissors. Line, paintbrush. Here it is. It's right in front of my face. There's the magic wand tool. And again, click the white and delete. And as you can see, it is now see-through. Now we're going to shrink this down so we get the right size brush for, oops, hold down Shift as you are scaling so that you constrain the proportions and you don't mess up the proportions of your lace. I think that's going to work nicely. If I go to the direct select, I can see there's a whole lot of anchor points. I do want to simplify this shape a little bit to make my file a little bit smaller because as is, this is going to be a large file. It's going to make your file bigger. In order to sort of see a little bit better what's going to happen when I simplify, I want to hide these anchor points. So you can go to View, Hide Edges, and as you can see, when you select things, nothing, your red line isn't going to show up, or the highlighted line doesn't show up. So you don't want to have this on during normal drawing. So I'm going to select, and then I'm going to go to Object, Path, Simplify. Let's do a preview. So curve precision isn't going to work for this trim because it really changes the look of the trim quite a bit. The angle threshold for this one doesn't really do much either, so we can leave it at 0, but as you can see, the original was 437 points and the current is 278, so we did help with simplifying this shape. So I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to go back to View and I'm going to show edges so that I can see what is going on in my file when I select things. Okay, so now that we have our shape simplified, we're going to do our invisible anchor point, and we're going to make sure there's no stroke, no fill. Using the pen tool, just add one anchor point at the bottom, and then we're going to reflect. Hold down Option, click the top, and then click OK. Again, I'm going to group these together so I don't lose that anchor point. Right-click, Group. Now I'm going to make a start tile and an end tile for my repeat. So I'm just going to Command-C, Command-V to have two more copies. This will be my start tile, this will be my end tile, and it's nice because I already have my invisible anchor point, which is important. And for this, you could add a scalloped edge if you wanted to finish your brush that way. I'm just going to do a simple line. I'm going to give it a black fill. And you can go in and adjust it a little bit if you need to. I will do the same for the other side. Control-C, Control-V. And adjust the positioning. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I'm going to group these together one more time just to make sure I have everything together. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my swatch panel and I'm going to drag in my start tile and I'm going to drag in my, whoops, Command-Z, drag in my end tile. Finally, I'm going to go to my brush panel and I'm going to choose my original middle tile here and click Pattern Brush, click OK. Now for this one, you need to adjust these to add your start and end tile. So I'm going to go here for start tile and I'm going to choose the new pattern swatch 4 because I know that is the first start tile. And then we'll go new pattern swatch 5. And again, I'm going to flip across so I know that it's going to be on the bottom of my line, and I'm going to hit OK. So now when we go over here, I'm going to edit, copy, edit, paste in front so I have my line, and I'm going to apply the brush. And as you can see, there's still a little bit of a gap, but not as big as when we rasterized. And you now have a start and end tile, which is nice. When you zoom out, you really can't see the gap. And again, it's nice to have that start and end tile there. It just makes everything look more finished. So those are the two ways that you can use an edited image, scan, or photograph as a brush.